The Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. It's always great to have Mort Klein, the national president of the Zionist Organization of America. He's an economist, Jewish activist, and he has his finger on the pulse of what's happening. So, Mort, welcome back to the show. I know it's been a tough week. You had a very close relationship with Charlie Kirk. So, thank you for joining us. And we do want to reflect on Charlie Kirk and his relationship with you. And really, he had a wonderful relationship with the Jewish community.
I've known Charlie Kirk for decades. Well, a decade, not decades, a decade. When he first started Turning Point USA, right away I saw what a special and extraordinary man this is. He had an incredible love of Israel, as well, of course, as a love of America and a love of the Bible, of the Torah. He could quote the Old Testament as well as the New Testament better than virtually any Jew I know. He knew it cold. I traveled all over Israel with him. We took helicopter rides in Israel to be able to see all of the territory of Israel from the air. We walked all over Jerusalem together. He would always in his speeches and to me say, I live more by the phrase from Genesis 12:3. He would always say, those who bless Israel will be blessed. Those who curse Israel will be cursed. He took that very seriously. He repeated that on campuses everywhere. And, he kept the Sabbath. Did you know that?
Yes, I saw that. He kept the Sabbath, yes.
From Friday night to Saturday, not Sunday. And I asked him why he keeps the Sabbath. He says it's one of the 10 Commandments to keep the Sabbath holy. The Sabbath is Saturday. And he said, this was a wonderful thing that the Jews gave to the world, to take a day off. He said, when Friday night comes, he takes his cell phone. He said, I put it in my drawer. I don't touch it again till Saturday night. And it's a time for reflection, for peace and tranquility, for being with my family. He said, that's the only thing I really am jealous of the Jewish people is their Sabbath. And that's why I took it. And I think this is required of all people to observe the Sabbath. It's in the Old Testament.
Well, it's interesting, though. He kept it on the Jewish version because the Jewish day starts at night. In the Christian world, the day starts in the sunrise. So I found it interesting. He started like Friday night on the Jewish calendar.
He started at night. And, he was scheduled to speak at our dinner November 9th.
That's a ZOA dinner in November.
The ZOA dinner. He actually had a conflict on that day, and he said he'll try to come by just for a half hour or an hour, say a few words. Even though he had a conflict, he wanted to come. When I asked him to come and let us honor him, he said, wow, I'm so thrilled. Wow, Mort, I'm so moved by this. He was overwhelmed that he was asked to speak to a Zionist group, an arch Zionist group, ZOA. That's how much he cared. And I want to say something else about him that people may not realize. First of all, he didn't go to college. He spent 2 months at a community college and dropped out at 18. And that's when he started
Turning Point USA.
Turning Point USA.
That's amazing. Go ahead.
Charlie Kirk was a genius. I don't use that word with anybody, almost nobody. The only other person I ever personally used it with is Linus Pauling, the 2-time Nobel Prize winning chemist I worked with for 20 years as a biostatistician. People don't know that about me.
Right. And you're also an economist for many years.
I was an economist as well in the federal government, a mathematical economist. Charlie Kirk was a genius. He knew everything. He knew philosophy. He knew political science. He knew history. He knew Middle East history. He answered questions about Israel the same way I do. He knew as much as me about Israel. This is a Christian who has no training in this area, but he read everything. He told me he read 100 books a year. And I believed him because he could quote John Locke and Immanuel Kant and extraordinary knowledge of these things. He told me, he said, and this despite the fact he has no college education, he said when he was asked to go to Oxford to debate an Oxford student, he accepted it. And the first thing the Oxford student said was, Mr. Kirk, I'm debating you, but you don't even have a college education. He tried to demean him. You don't even have a college education. And he said to the student, I watched the debate. He said, what is this debate about? Is it about resumes or about issues? What is this debate about? And he says, but since I didn't go to college and you're at Oxford, you should be able to wipe the floor with me. So let's see how it goes. He wiped the floor with the Oxford kid. So smart, knew how to answer every question. And by the way, he was an imposing figure. He's 6'5", tall, handsome, charismatic guy. He was a tremendous friend for Israel and for America. It is a terrible loss because he was changing young people's minds about Israel and America for the good. And he's almost irreplaceable. There's just no one like him I've ever met in my life.
Now, his wife, Erica, has stated she'd like to carry on his mission. Are you also in touch with Erica or have been in touch over the years?
No, I have not been in touch with her. I've met her, of course. First time I met her actually was at the Trump inauguration. I went to the Mark Zuckerberg, Dr. Miri Adelson party. There were parties all over town. I went to that party. And as I'm walking around, Rita, my wife, sees Charlie Kirk and his wife walking out the door. They had already been there apparently for a while. And I said, Charlie. He turns around, walks over to me with a big smile, gives me a big hug. Erica is my wife. Erica, she gives me a big hug. They hugged Rita, talked about Israel with me. It couldn't be warmer and friendlier. This was a special, special man. And this is a man I believe would very likely have ended up becoming president of the United States. I think he would have gone into politics because he had every political skill you could ever imagine.
Terrible loss. We mentioned he's irreplaceable. His wife has indicated she'd like to carry on his mission. So I know it's soon. She just lost her husband. Any plans to invite her either to this dinner in November or a future event?
I think right now it's best that she should attempt to heal as best as she can and not be bothered with requests or public appearances. Obviously, we'd be thrilled to have her come to our dinner November 9th. But our committee has decided we're going to ask her at some time in the future to honor her and her husband at some time in the future, but not right now.
Who do you have instead of Charlie Kirk at your November dinner?
November 9th is our dinner, Sunday night in New York City at the Ziegfeld Forum.
Forum, okay.
It's the Ziegfeld building or something or other in New York City. And we have confirmed Israel's ambassador to the United States, Yechiel Leiter, who's the greatest orator maybe I've ever heard. One of the great orators, Yechiel Leiter. We have Leo Terrell. He's an African-American who's the Justice Department head of the fight for anti-Semitism. He's the lead fighter for anti-Semitism under Trump in the Justice Department. He is confirmed will be coming. And we have Danny Danone, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, confirmed coming. And I'm so sorry that I can't tell you that Charlie Kirk will be there as well as we had planned.
Because he was able to counterweight some of the anti-Semitism, some of the anti-Zionism out there. Is there anybody out there, any proteges, anybody that he worked with that could fill some of the gap?
I don't know. Maybe his wife can. His wife was his very close partner in life, and maybe she is as familiar with the issues or almost as familiar as her husband, because the odds are high that she will take over. I hope she'll be able to do that. We need a Kirk on the battlefield. That's for sure.
Absolutely, we need Captain Kirk, as those that watch Star Trek. Let me ask you this question. You have some very prominent people always coming to your dinners. I think you had honored Steve Bannon a number of years ago. Has he changed his position on Israel? Because at your dinner, he said he's a Zionist. Is he still in the same league as he was, in your opinion?
Steve Bannon asked me if he could introduce Sheldon Adelson at our dinner. So he came as introducing Sheldon. He was not a speaker, but in introducing Sheldon, he did make a few remarks. And he did announce immediately that he is a Christian Zionist.
Is he still the same way that he was?
I believe he is still a Christian Zionist. He still cares deeply about Israel and supports Israel. I've heard some concerning remarks that he's made. I don't know if that's true or not. I simply don't know. But my experience with him is he was as fervent a supporter of Israel as I've ever met. I don't know if he's changed. I can't answer that in an honest way because I'm just not sure. But I would find it hard to believe that he would have turned in any serious way. Maybe there's an issue here or there he's concerned about, but his general feeling toward Israel, an ardent support of Zionists, Israel's right to defend themselves, protect themselves, and survive as a Jewish state, I'm sure is still there with Steve Bannon.
Because we face a lot of people that we thought were supportive of Israel and no longer so, including Tucker Carlson. Who would have thought Tucker Carlson would become such a critic of Jews in Israel?
I was always concerned about Tucker Carlson, even though I loved his show on Fox. I would always say to my wife and others, he never mentions Israel. Never mentions Israel. Even when there had been some major issue going on in Israel, he would ignore it. And that was deeply concerning to me. And now I see that there was a reason he didn't mention Israel. He has enormous hostility toward Israel, and I believe to the Jewish people. If you have enormous hostility toward Israel, it means you have enormous hostility to the Jewish people. And people say, no, you can hate Israel but love Jews. I said, can you hate Italy and love Italians? Can you hate France and love French people? No. So his hostility, as far as I'm concerned, is as a Jew hater, and it is deeply troubling. But he's hurt himself. His credibility has waned because of this ugly hatred. Not only does he promote this hatred, he continuously brings on people on his podcast who condemn Israel and hate Israel. So,
because we're seeing, unfortunately, the Jew hatred, the anti-Semitism is so much out there. Mamdani, who's slated to be the next mayor of New York if elections were to be held today, he's openly says, he's anti-Israel, pro-Hamas, globalize the Intifada, free Palestine from the river to the sea. These are all genocidal slogans. And they get away with it. And we see Candace Owens. What's going on, Mort? Why all of a sudden? Is it October 7th that was there before and just unleashed that they felt freer to speak now?
Mamdani is an overt Jew hater, and I believe America hater, both. I was very disappointed to see that Governor Hochul endorsed him this week. I hope and pray that Hakeem Jeffries and
Chuck
Schumer continue to withhold their endorsement. I hope and pray. And there's also statements been made this week that Adams is going to drop out this week. I've urged Curtis Sliwa to drop out.
Which he will not. He will not drop. I can tell you. I spoke to him. I know him. He will not drop out under any circumstance.
I know. That's really a shame. Yes. Look, it's hard to understand this hatred, this enormous eruption of hatred toward Jews. Why was there an enormous eruption of hatred toward Jews in the 30s? In the 30s, here in America and around the world. Jew hatred is irrational. It doesn't make any sense. But I'll tell you, one of the problems is there's been no pushback by our Jewish leaders and Israeli leaders on the lies against Israel and the Jewish people. No strong pushback on the lie of genocide, on the lie of apartheid, on the lie of occupation, that it's Arab land, that there was a Palestinian state, which there never was. On the lie that Jerusalem is holy to Muslims, it is not holy to Muslims. There's been no pushback. More importantly, there's been no demonizing the demons. We should be demonizing the demons of the Middle East. For example, we should be condemning Mahmoud Abbas as a monster terrorist who pays Arabs a lifetime pension to murder Jews. He spends $400 million a year paying Arabs to murder Jews. The more Jews an Arab kills, the higher his pension. Why isn't that known by everyone? Why isn't that a major public issue? Why isn't he condemned for naming schools, streets, sports teams, children's camps after Jew killers? He honors them. And when a Jew killing terrorist dies, he has a huge parade for them. Why isn't this known? Why aren't our Israeli leaders, Jewish leaders, promoting the fact that Mahmoud Abbas is a monster, that he's the same as Hamas? Do you know that hundreds of Palestinian Authority citizens joined in the 6,000 people who attacked innocent Jews and perpetrated these atrocities? Palestinian Authority people were part of this. We should say so.
You're not part of October 7th? Is that
There
what
were
you're saying?
yes, hundreds of Palestinian Authority citizens participated in the massacre. Abbas has said it publicly, proudly. Where do I get that information? Abbas said so. That's where I get that information.
I would
In
guess it's
fact,
Mort Klein, national president of the Zionist Organization of America. But we don't pay attention to what they say. The October 7th could have been averted had we watched the television in Hamas areas in Gaza. They showed exactly what they're going to do. They had exercises planning the event. We just turned a blind eye to what Hamas was doing. We don't pay attention to what they're saying or doing.
And you know, this Hamas, Islamic Arab Hamas nightmare didn't begin October 7th. We forget, and this should be mentioned all the time, but it's not. Since 2006, when Israel threw 10,000 Jews out of Gaza and northern Samaria, and threw out all the IDF, gave all the area over to the Arabs, they immediately elected Hamas. 90% of the Gaza civilians support Hamas today. 93% support October 7th. So we gave all this area over to Hamas back then, and they turned it into a terrorist nightmare. And so people who say we want to give them a state, look what they've done with the state of Gaza. That's been a state. Look what they've done with the Palestinian Authority, promoting hatred and violence against Jews and Christians. If you kill a Christian, you get a lifetime pension also. It should be made clear. Also, they preach in their rallies, both Hamas and the Palestinian Authority and Iran, death to America, death to Israel. First is death to America. Other chants they use in their rallies, first the Saturday people, next the Sunday people. They openly say we want to kill all the Christians after we kill all the Jews. And we ignore all this. And our leaders in America ignore all this. And it's so outrageous that a significant number, I have to say it's Democrats, have signed on to resolutions and legislation to stop all arms to Israel in the midst of their war against these terrorists. And this is really the most anti-Semitic resolution legislation imaginable. It's not going to go anywhere yet, but increasing numbers of people have signed on to this, including a number of Jews, including Jews like Seth Magaziner and Shakowski of Chicago, and others have signed on to this legislation to stop arms to Israel in the midst of their war.
Here's where the problem lies, according to the polls, is that majority of Democrats don't support Israel. They support Hamas and Palestinians over Israel. And the Republicans are starting to have the same thing. While Republican voters are better, but the erosion of support for Israel has gone down immensely and keeps declining. That's the problem that we're facing.
The latest polls 2 weeks ago, I'm just citing the polls, show 8% of Democrats support Israel over the Arabs. 8. That's less than 10. 8. Republicans several weeks ago, 71% support Israel over the Arabs. So we're on Capitol Hill all the time. I have 2 full-time lobbyists there. We found no erosion among members of Congress on the Republican side supporting Israel. You've seen visible Republicans who become hostile, like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, but I haven't seen
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was my friend. I knew her very well. I tell you, I cannot explain her enormous hostility. She was a tremendous friend of Israel. Many of my board members financially supported her very significantly, and now she's become extremely hostile. I cannot explain it.
Matt Gaetz, when he was in Congress also. But she belongs to and what Matt Gaetz believes that the Jews killed Jesus. And that's part, and Marjorie believes that too. I think that may have some play as it came out during some of the conversation.
Matt Gaetz said that to me. And I said to him, you know, we Jews have a rule. If you kill our God, we immediately stop believing in him that he's God. I mean, this is such an absurd allegation, it seems to me. You know, what kind of a God if we could kill our God, their God? So, or if Jews are so powerful, we can kill a God, you better beware of us, Mr. Gaetz. We're incredibly powerful. We can kill gods.
You know about the old joke about a Jewish fellow walking down the street and somebody starts beating him up. And he goes, why are you beating me up? He goes, you killed our Lord. Killed your Lord? That was 2,000 years ago. So the fellow goes, I just found out about it this morning. But that's the problem. It's an old camp. But she subscribed. I don't know if she's a recent convert to that theory, or she always had. I suspect maybe a more recent vintage. Maybe that's why she turned on Jews in Israel.
No matter what happened 2,000 years ago, we Jews today had nothing to do with whatever did or didn't happen.
It was the Romans actually killed them.
The Romans killed Jesus, not the Jews. The Jews don't use a cross by killing people by using a cross. That's the Romans. And then the Romans, when they captured that area of Judea and Samaria 2,000 years ago, they named it Philistinia. They intentionally named it Philistinia, which is anglicized to Palestine.
They want to de-Judaize it.
And to stick it to the Jews that the Philistines were our arch enemy throughout history. So they named it Palestine, named it after the Jews' harsh enemy to make us miserable. But there never was a state of Palestine, ever. There was never any Palestinian kings or queens, no Palestinian currency. This is all a lie. This was always Jewish area. In fact, the first Jewish paper in the Middle East was the Palestine Post, Jewish paper. The first Jewish orchestra was the Palestine Orchestra, because Palestine and Palestinian meant Jew. The whole world knew that. In fact, in the movie Exodus, Paul Newman, who plays an Israeli Jew, speaking to his girlfriend at the King David Hotel, says, I'm a Sabra. And she says to Paul Newman, what's a Sabra? And he says, a Sabra is a native-born Palestinian. It meant Jew. This is 1959, the movie Exodus. Palestinian always meant Jew because everyone always understood this is the Jewish homeland, this area that was renamed Palestine from the true name Judea and Samaria. In fact, I urge everyone, stop using the term West Bank. That term is used to de-Judaize the Jewish homeland. Use the term Judea and Samaria.
I agree. I think that's now official policy of the United States too, to recognize it as Judea and Samaria. Have you tried reaching out again to Marjorie Taylor Greene? Because you say you had a good relationship with her. Your people supported her financially. Have you tried reaching out to find out what's going on?
I have tried to call her. I can't get through to her. She doesn't take my calls.
Oh, so she stopped taking once she changed. And when did this transition take place, would you say?
In the past year, not that long ago, the past year or so. In fact, I met her at a reception in Washington for the former speaker, Kevin McCarthy. There was a reception. I knew Kevin McCarthy very well, the Speaker of the House at the time. He had a big reception celebrating his becoming Speaker. And I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene there, and she asked me if she could do a conference call with our leadership. So she asked me at that time that she would like to do a conference call with the Zionist Organization of America. That's how friendly she was toward Jews. And the people who funded her on their own, the Jewish people from our board, they did so because she was a friend of Israel, which she was. I cannot explain her transformation. I sometimes wonder, have wealthy billionaires who hate Israel start paying people to change their minds? Are they paying Candace Owens? Are they paying Tucker Carlson?
All the reports that come out that Qatar has been giving him money. That's what some reports I've seen. Big amounts of money.
Yes, big amounts of money. So I look, I have no knowledge of this. This is pure speculation, but it seems extraordinarily peculiar that someone like Candace Owens, who was fervently pro-Israel, who worked closely, she was hired by Charlie Kirk. I met her first in Florida at a Charlie Kirk Turning Point event where I was speaking. That's where I met Candace Owens. And she said she wanted to do op-eds together with me. We testified in Congress together, sitting next to each other in Congress. And this radical transformation makes no sense. And I just wonder if there's financial aspects to this behind the scenes. I don't know that, but it just doesn't make any sense, this transformation.
To the best of your knowledge, that Charlie Kirk tried reaching out to Candace Owens, considering she had worked for him, to see what was transpiring?
I regret that I never asked him about that or to do that. So I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
But at the end of the day, we're going to close out. I think Charlie Kirk was such a terrific asset to America, and he had a wonderful relationship with Jews and with Israel. Any closing thoughts that come to your mind regarding Charlie?
May he rest in peace. The man was only 31 years old. He built one of the most powerful and important and largest organizations in America. He was not only a brilliant man who had incredible knowledge, and was an extraordinary debater. He was an incredible organizer and manager and administrator. This guy had incredible talents. If he were Jewish, I would have asked him to become my executive director. He could have really built ZOA.
You could have
So,
had a Christian. You could have had a Christian division.
Well, he would have been the one. He would have been the one. But
by the way, you need a Christian division because I understand the younger Christians, evangelical Christians, are not supportive of Israel. They're pro-Palestinian. And I asked one of the pastors why a lot of them go to these colleges, these woke colleges with woke professors. They come back hating Israel. It's a problem.
Problem. That's why Charlie Kirk's loss is even a greater loss. He would always get questions about Israel and the Arab-Israeli situation, and he took these people apart as to why they should support Israel, why Israel's the one to support. That is the Arabs and the Islamists who are the vicious haters and monsters. And he changed young people's minds about Israel with incredible knowledge. Again, he answered the questions about Israel as well as I would answer them. That's how knowledgeable he was. I mean, this is my life. I'm a Jew. And yet, as Christian, knew as much as me about Israel and knew how to answer them. It was a terrible loss. And I only hope that his wife or someone else who has some of the talents of Charlie Kirk will take over his organization and keep it going, because it was a very important movement that he created at the age of 18 till this day of 31, and had incredible friends, political friends all over the country, and was becoming more and more important. And his influence and belief system was being spread all over the world. A terrible loss. And we will invite his wife in the near future to allow us to honor his legacy and his memory at the Zionist Organization of America. We'll surely do that in the future.
Mort Klein, National President of the ZOA of America, Zionist Organization of America, also economist, former economist. You still do it? You don't do economic work, do you?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
In fact, when I look at, let me tell you, I was a biostatistician working with the great chemist Linus Pauling for 20 years. When I look at my biostatistics, mathematical statistics books, I don't understand a word of them. And I say to myself, Mort, you used to be a genius, but those days are over.
But you're doing even more important work. You're doing holy work, protecting the Jewish people, standing firm for Israel. We need that. We need more people like you.
And I urge people to go to our website, ZOA.org, ZOA.org. We put out material almost every day, and you will learn more and more about the truth of the Arab-Islamic war against the Jews, against Israel and the West by reading our website on a regular basis.
Mort, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, the pulse beat of the Jewish community.
For continuous Jewish programs, TalklineNetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the TalklineNetwork.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.